Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Juliana Torres, and I'm the Associate Director of Admissions and Diversity at Roger Williams University School of Law. Today, we have a panel of some of our amazing alumni doing great work in all areas of the country and many different areas of law. And we can't wait to hear their amazing perspectives and insights. So before we begin, I would like to just take a moment to reflect on the lands on which we reside. We are coming from many places, and we want to acknowledge the ancestral homelands and traditional territories of Indigenous and Native peoples who have been here since time immemorial, and to recognize that we must continue to build our solidarity and kinship with Native peoples across the Americas and across the globe. Roger Williams University School of Law is located in Bristol, Rhode Island, and so we acknowledge and we honor the Narragansett and Pokanoket people, as well as the Suoms, the original name of the land on which our campus resides. We also acknowledge that this country would not exist if not for the free enslaved labor of Black people. And we recognize that the town of Bristol and the very land on which our campus resides has benefited significantly from the trade of enslaved people from Africa. The economy of New England, of Rhode Island, and more specifically of Bristol, was built from wealth generated through the triangle trade of human lives. During this time of ongoing national reckoning with our history of slavery and the disparate treatment of Black people, we honor the legacy of the African diaspora and the Black lives, knowledge, and skills stolen due to violence and white supremacy. As we gather here today, the movement for justice and liberation is building in our country, and we are witnessing the power of the people. Yet many are still being met with violence and even being killed, while others actively work to stand in the way of progress. As upholders of justice, our hope is to become agents of change for members of our society who have been met with violence, physical, mental, and emotional, through our privilege. And as upholders of justice, we believe that our students, who soon will be practitioners of law, can be and already are agents of change as well. Thank you all. So now I will pass this over to Christopher Gerlica for our Career Development Office. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Juliana. Yeah, so I'm Chris Gerlica. I'm the Associate Director of Career Development. My pronouns are he, him, his. And I'm also a Roger Williams alum from the class of 2012. And so I'm very excited to have a lovely panel of fellow alums here to talk about their experiences while at Roger Williams University School of Law. And we'll start with some introductions. I'd like to start with Eden first.
Hi, everyone. My name's Eden Yerby. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a recent graduate. I graduated in 2023, and I'm an associate attorney at Robinson & Cole.
Thank you. Ivan?
Hello, my name is Ivan Cody Jr. I am a recent graduate of the 2021 class of Roger Williams University School of Law. I'm currently practicing in Washington, D.C. I am an assistant attorney general with the District of Columbia.
Zach?
Hi, everyone. My name is Zachary Lyons. My pronouns are he, him, his. I graduated from Roger Williams University School of Law in 2017, and I am currently an attorney at a firm called Barton Gilman in Providence.
Thank you. And Brooklyn?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Brooklin Eleoff. I am a staff attorney at Rhode Island Legal Services in Providence, Rhode Island. I graduated from Roger Williams School of Law in 2013, and I am currently in two different units at Legal Services, Family Law and Financial Stability.
Cool. And last but never least, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Lynn. I also graduated in the class of 2012. Seems like a long time ago now. I currently work in the state of California for the California Energy Commission, and my pronouns are she, her. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all. So I'd like to ask you each about kind of your journey to your current position and what kind of practice areas that you've worked on and you currently work on. I think let's mix it up and start with Ivan first this time.
I don't mind going first this time. So, I began after I graduated law school from Roger Williams in 2021. I began my career in New York City, Manhattan. I was working with the Administration for Children's Services. I started off prosecuting child neglect and child abuse crimes in the borough of Manhattan. I was there for about a year and a half. After doing that for some time, I decided to kind of pivot to a different section of family law. I'm now prosecuting juvenile offenders in the District of Columbia, ranging from misdemeanor offenses all the way up till felony murder in the first degree while armed. So kind of interesting path. I never took family law in law school, which was pretty ironic because majority of my career so far has all been in family law. So you don't have to take the class to necessarily make a career out of it. So far, so good.
Thank you, Ivan. Zachary?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess I got to start before law school, briefly. Before I went to law school, I practice immigration law right now. That's my practice area. Before I went to law school, I taught English in Chile, in South America. I was there for a year. And I came back and I went to law school, and I became interested in issues related to immigration, generally. So in law school, I participated in mostly immigration related like programs through in the law school. I did the immigration clinic in the law school. I interned at an immigration law firm, and then immediately after graduating in 2017, I began working in a small immigration law practice, and I've been doing it ever since I graduated from law school. So, I was always interested in immigration law. I took other classes in law school 100% and tried to get a broad experience through law school. I also interned with a solo practitioner. I interned at RILS, at Rhode Island Legal Services as well, doing family law as well. But ultimately, I came back to immigration law.
Awesome. Thank you. Sarah, what was your journey like to your current position?
After I graduated law school, I landed a fellowship for 1 year on the Hill in Washington, D.C., working in the House of Representatives on the Committee on Natural Resources. And I focused primarily on policy. I focused on oceans and wildlife policy. And then the chief counsel position opened up, and I was able to transition to a full-time position where I stayed for about 9 years. And so even though it has a legal title, it was more policy work and legislative work, like a lot of pure procedure and rules, where you want a lawyer in that position, but you don't actually need a law degree necessarily. You don't represent like the Congress as a client. There's a different legal office for that. So committee work is more policy work. So I sort of went into the policy world and continued on with that. After leaving Washington, D.C., I went to California, consulted for a while, and then I now work with the California Energy Commission doing policy around energy and transportation.
Awesome. Yes. And for those of you watching, a lot of those jobs that Sarah had, we often call JD Advantage. So not always that you need to be practicing law to use your JD, which is great. And, benefits of the degree. So Brooklyn, how about your journey?
So, like some of you, I had a completely different career path prior to law school. I went to Northeastern, and then so I was at university in Boston, and then I fled to live out in LA with stars in my eyes, thinking that I was going to go into the entertainment business and I was going to be an entertainment agent, and I had all these aspirations. And ultimately, at a crossroads, my mom, who's a lawyer, suggested to take the LSAT literally on a whim. And then I ended up moving back home, and my score was still something I could use. So I applied to Roger Williams, where my mom went, got into law school. And I remember I was working at Hasbro, the toy company at the time, in their production studio as a producer. So I was in gaming, creative, sometimes voicing My Little Pony, like just totally different world. That's my fun fact. And so in law school, I really was like opened up to a whole new world. I currently work at Rhode Island Legal Services. I think we'll get to that in a little bit about what inspired that in law school. But I have been here since 2014. And I am a staff attorney now. I work in the Family Preservation Project, representing court-appointed parents who are facing involuntary termination of parental rights or neglect, abuse, or dependency allegations. So sort of in Ivan's world, although not criminal, because there is a different court that handles criminal prosecution when abuse and neglect rises to that level. But my job and our unit is to focus on family reunification. And those cases can be quite serious, sometimes involving fatalities. And so it's high volume, incredibly emotional work at times. And then the other unit that I work in is called the Responsible Parent Project. So we represent, again, court-appointed individuals who are the non-custodial parent facing a contempt motion alleging that they are willfully not paying child support, and basically the state agency is seeking to incarcerate them until they can purge contempt. So in both situations, it's a heavy lift to make sure people's liberty is preserved, constitutional rights are at stake, and I really enjoy what I do. And the people here have become an extended family, and it's cool to I don't know, Zachary, if I ever saw you in the building, but we occupy 3 floors in a building downtown right near the courthouses, and it's been an awesome place to work.
Awesome. Thank you. And lastly, Eden, what's kind of been your journey to where you are now?
Yeah, my journey is not as long because I'm just out of law school. It's been not even a full year. So my legal career actually started in law school. I received an internship with the firm that I'm working at currently through the law school, through a diversity internship program that the law firm has, and they partner with a lot of law schools in the area in the Northeast. And from there, I was asked to come back as a summer associate in my second year at Roger Williams, and then I received a job offer to come back after graduation, which was great. So currently I do a lot of work in affordable housing, and we do a lot of work with representing lenders and developers in the affordable housing world. I also do a little bit of commercial leasing and some land use law as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Eden. So and I'm going to stay on you for a second. So moving into sort of what at Roger Williams helped prepare you for your current job. I think it's kind of very fresh in your mind, I'm sure. I know obviously your internships, but was there anything in particular, classes or externship opportunities that you've discovered have been very helpful now that you're an attorney?
Yeah, definitely. Property law was definitely very helpful considering I do that on the day-to-day. Same thing with contracts law. We do a lot of contract review, and that's definitely a part of my everyday life now. I was also part of Sea Grant, which is a program that Roger Williams has, and I was able to do a lot of work on my legal writing and research there. And that's helped a lot with my professional skills now as I'm doing research for different cases for land use. And we did a little bit of land use work in my project that I was working on. So it's helped me expand my knowledge on different easement rights, and different kind of takings and things like that, that I also deal with and have a couple of cases right now that we're working on.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Eden. And I won't pick on anyone else if anyone wants to jump in with what they felt like Roger Williams helped them with their career. Yeah, Brooklyn.
I'll share only because I think it kind of makes my crazy 180 make a little bit of sense. So I'm been living in Rhode Island before going to law school, so I wasn't coming to law school like you might when you're in university and you're hoping to make a whole bunch of new friends and all this. I kind of really kept to myself, and there was one class I was in where someone beside me was just super friendly and really brought me out of my shell. I went from like studying alone in my car to just being ingratiated into this group of friends that were all public interest minded, and it was so the opposite of what I thought I was going to do. And then ultimately, I did the alternative spring break 2L year at the Brooklyn Defender Services in Brooklyn, New York. And we spent a week just entrenched in the courtrooms. We had lawyers that were so happy to just show us what it was like to be in the holding cell, to be in a courtroom during a gun trial. And so I left there going, holy smokes, especially seeing clients behind bars and just what they were going through. So that ultimately inspired me to then do the criminal defense clinic. And I remain in touch with my professor, who really is like a mentor to me from that clinic. And then also trial advocacy with Judge Procaccini, who's still a sitting judge in Superior Court in Providence, presides over some really heavy trials, murders and things like that. And ultimately, Rhode Island Legal Services, it was Lori Barron in the Feinstein. It's still Feinstein, Chris? Okay. And so just really kind of steered me in the direction of learning about Rhode Island Legal Services and what they do as the largest nonprofit civil service firm in Rhode Island. So I definitely wish I told myself to be more open-minded in the beginning, but I would not be here if it wasn't for the people that I went to law school with.
It's amazing. Like, that's just a heartwarmingly good story.
Thanks for letting me share.
Yeah.
I want to hijack the time, but
Oh,
I
no.
do. I'm proud of that story. I really
Huh.
would not have believed you if you told me that.
No, and it speaks to a lot of, I think, law students' experiences, where we often come in thinking we want to do one thing, and then leave not doing that. So, anyone else want to share? Sarah?
I'd love to. Yes, I also agree with Brooklyn that the sort of the opportunities to expand just on the core and primary education that you get gave me a huge advantage to getting a job after I graduated, because I came out with a lot of experience I could put on my resume, which looks great, but also I had it sorted in my mind, sort of the direction that I wanted to go based on these activities that Roger Williams sort of opened the door to. As Eden said, there's a fantastic Sea Grant sort of hub in the Marine Institute at the Roger Williams University. And because it develops that expertise within the university, a lot of opportunities come to those students who are involved. So I was able to take advantage of a legal intern at the Office of General Counsel for Ocean Services at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in DC my first summer after 1L year, which normally they don't take 1Ls, they only take 2. So, but because of the good relationship with the law school and that general counsel's office, I was able to get that really early experience in a big, DC agency. And then I also externed in Boston for the United States Coast Guard and was able to do regulatory work and pretrial work under a Coast Guard judge advocate. And on top of that, I participated in environmental law moot court, international law moot court, among many other sort of research projects that I picked up along the way with various professors. So the law school for me really helped hone and build that credential when you normally can't until after you get a job. But I was able to build my resume and become very competitive when I graduated.
And if I may dovetail off of Sarah, I forgot to mention moot court. Moot court, law review, you come into law school and you really feel like you've got to do one or the other. And law review was just so intimidating to me. I applaud my peers that did it, but moot court really just was so cool and solidified that I wanted to be a litigator. I wanted to be in the courtroom. There's this performance aspect that does tie into my pre-law career of wanting to work in entertainment and creative world. So it's just so cool to hear about how everybody's different stories come together.
For sure. Also, Sarah, weren't you a dual degree student?
Yes, yes. That was one of the main, I only applied to one law school because I knew I wanted to go and do this dual degree program because I knew I didn't want to be like a real lawyer, like everyone here. I knew I wanted to be a policy lawyer. So I went in specifically for that. All eggs, one basket sort of thing.
That was the Master's in Marine Affairs that we still have. It's with the University
Yeah.
of Rhode Island.
A friend of mine did that as well, and he loves it. He works down on Wall Street in Manhattan and does marine law and loves it.
Yeah. Gentlemen?
Sure, why not? I also, when I went to law school, I did moot court as well. So I was part of the moot court board during my 2L, 3L year, which was really great for me. I always knew going into law school I wanted to do something that involved being in court. I didn't want to pencil push. I didn't want to be behind a desk. Ironically, I'm behind a desk right now. But I know I wanted to be in court. And so I didn't know what aspect or how. And Roger Williams really kind of helped foster kind of piggybacking off of what Sarah kind of said earlier. You can really build your resume at RWU. I came in with absolutely zero legal experience. I didn't even know if I really wanted to be a lawyer. I just kind of was like, maybe more school will give me some more time to mature a little bit. And I picked one very interesting way to do that by going to law school. And once I got here, I got to participate in alternative spring break. I got to run that program for a year afterwards. But I got to do externships at big law firms like Chisholm and Kilpatrick. I got to do an externship with the chief judge of the Rhode Island Federal District Court, Judge McConnell, who I believe is still sitting. It's always good. I love Judge McConnell. I got to extern for him. I got to have a summer internship with the Rhode Island Public Defender's Office and got to really put practice into what I was learning in the classroom. So I got to really build up quite an interesting resume, private law experience, kind of like a pseudo clerkship experience, and as well as just practical public defender experience, all before graduating and all before starting my career. And it really put me a leg up on a lot of different things. Like when I first started in Manhattan doing child neglect and child abuse, I was also an evidence TA. I loved evidence. So they gave me a leg up when it came to starting my career and being a trial lawyer, and got to move up pretty quickly. And now I'm in DC prosecuting for felony ones, just 3 years out of law school. So you can really build your resume, and as long as you apply yourself, you can be places you never thought you would be in such a short amount of time. And I really like to thank all the programs at RWU, and always look into those different programs while you're there, because they truly make a difference to someone who can come in with zero law experience, leave with so much, and be able to apply that going forward.
That's great. And Ivan, do you mind explaining what moot court is? Because we do have a lot of students who are unfamiliar with, and when they come in, my fellow first gens, they don't know what the words.
No problem. I also didn't know what moot court was. I competed on trial team in undergrad. Trial team is more of the more prototypical law and order mock trial, your defense versus prosecution type of lawyering with evidence and witnesses, kind of like a more theatrical, which was really fun because I did a little theater in middle school. So I thought that was pretty cool aspect to it. Moot court is much different than mock trial. You're researching and writing a brief, an appellate brief. So not at the trial court level, but more on the pseudo Supreme Court argument kind of thing, where you're building up this entire brief on a particular issue, and then you're practicing this brief. You're studying all the case law behind this brief, really developing and fine-tuning your argument, and then you're going before a panel of judges versus just one judge, and you're arguing that brief, and the judges are asking you questions intermittently throughout, you reciting your particular position that's been assigned to you. And it's really, really a different experience, and it really helps you develop your public speaking skills, the confidence in yourself through your research. If you're ever timid, I knew people on moot court who were timid, but when they were doing moot court and after they felt the confidence from that research, it was a whole different animal. And you saw different people transform before your very eyes just by giving those types of arguments. So I would highly recommend, even if you're kind of shy, it's a very interesting way to go about it. And that's kind of the setup for moot court.
Thank you. Yeah. Zachary, I know you already mentioned how influential the immigration clinic was. Was there anything else at Roger Williams that's really helped you in your career?
Yeah, so I would say probably the immigration clinic was the most important or impactful experience that I had at Roger Williams in terms of directly impacting what I do now. But I didn't, like I referenced earlier, a lot of public interest related. I did, programs. Worked at, interned at Rhode Island Legal Services after my 1L year in a family law department. Actually, Brooklyn, I think it was right before you came back, probably, or came to Rhode Island Legal Services, but I was in the Responsible Parenting Project, my 1L year. I also did
Yeah, what year was that?
It was, that was in actually, it would have been the same time you were there. It was 2015.
It might, yeah, we might have crossed paths. There was like a hot minute that I just left out where, because I was a contract lawyer, I was in private practice for about 4 months, hoping that a
Okay.
staff attorney position would
I
open
see.
up. So
Yeah.
maybe that's when I wasn't here,
Yeah,
but
it could have
yeah,
been. It could have been.
cool.
So I did legal services, alternative spring break, which we haven't mentioned, but basically it's an opportunity during spring break every year there's a number of different places. I think Brooklyn, you referenced going to Brooklyn Defenders, right? For alternative spring break. But anyway, during spring break, the students are able to go for the week of spring break to I guess intern. Chris, is that the right word? I don't know.
Yeah, hang out at a legal employer
Yeah,
kind of thing.
right.
It depends
But it's
on the
generally a
employer.
public service, oriented legal employer. You can also, the students also complete their, I think, pro bono requirement, or can complete their pro bono requirement for graduation through alternative spring break. But what's nice about it is it's just a week-long snippet of some type of law, some type of practice area. And so it's kind of a low lift, easy way to get a flavor, a very small flavor of what working at the Brooklyn Defenders would be. Or in my case, I did one at an immigration nonprofit, and I did another one at the Rhode Island Center for Justice, which works on civil issues, housing issues, and things like that. So I did a lot of public service related programs. I participated in a lot of public service related programs at Roger Williams. And now, but since I graduated, I've only been in private practice the whole time. I know I didn't continue with that. And it's not because I believe strongly in public service lawyering and the missions of Roger Williams. It's just I've practiced in private practice since I graduated. And so the other thing that I would mention, even above the programs that I participated in, is so I'm in private practice. I didn't really explain it sufficiently, I don't think, at the beginning, but very briefly, I do immigration law. We represent people, asylum seekers, people getting married, and bringing family members to the United States. That's called family-based immigration. I also represent people in deportation proceedings. And then a big part of my practice is also employment-based immigration, so corporate immigration. So companies petitioning workers, bringing them over to work as their employees. I depend in my practice on referrals all the time. I need new business consistently coming in to feed myself and to sustain my practice. The relationships that I built at Roger Williams now serve me in building and maintaining my business, because I get calls. And the thing about immigration law is that it's federally regulated, meaning I can represent clients everywhere in the US. I have clients throughout all 50 states, California, Florida, Texas, Chicago, Alaska, everywhere. And so I have the network from Roger Williams where I have attorneys that call me that I went to law school with, or other alums who call me and say, Zach, I have this, they don't practice immigration law. They say, Zach, I have this person with this immigration issue. Is this something you can handle? And I can, because, like I said, immigration is federally regulated. So what I'm saying is that not just the programs that I participated in, but those strong relationships that I made in the law school continue to serve me to this day, really.
That's great. And yeah, it's true. We're a smaller law school and you just get to know everybody. So that's very Rhode Islandy.
But not everyone stays in Rhode Island. That's what's nice too, is there's lawyers everywhere. I know if, Sarah, obviously, Ivan, both of you on this panel, I don't know if you're in Providence, but people, there's alums all over the place.
We are, yes, Eden, I think you said in Connecticut, right?
Yes, I'm in the Connecticut office,
Yeah.
but I'll be potentially doing a little bit of work in Massachusetts too. We're all over.
But yeah, you're exactly right, Zach. Our student body comes from everywhere, and then we all go everywhere. And so we have alumni in every single state. Which is fantastic when we want to move and find new spots. So I guess we can start wrapping up. Is there any other sort of final thoughts anyone would like to share? I'll leave that open and we'll pick on anybody.
I have something else to add really quick. I don't know if we mentioned law review, if anyone brought that up.
Just that it intimidated me.
I personally was not a member of Law Review, but I did work with Law Review when I did an ad hoc article, and I have a lot of friends that were on Law Review. And for people that don't know what that is, Law Review is essentially a publication that law schools put out where different students, legal professionals, so that includes professors or practicing attorneys, essentially do research on different legal issues, and then they get published based off of what's selected for that certain publication. That's definitely something that Roger Williams is at Roger Williams. That's a great benefit for students because it helps immensely with your legal writing. It also helps immensely with your research, and it can also help get your name out into the legal world already before you even graduate. But that was just something I wanted to add because I don't think we mentioned it.
We didn't. No, thank you. And thank you for the good explanation of what law review is and why it's a good idea to try out for it. So, any final thoughts, everyone?
I would just say that when I was going to RWU, I never visited the campus before I applied. I didn't know what I necessarily wanted to do after I graduated undergrad, and I was applying to a bunch of different places and kind of chose it based on price alone. I didn't want to rack up even more student loan debt, which is pretty beneficial with RWU and their scholarships that they offer. So I remember the day before orientation, packing up my entire car and then driving up the day of orientation just to make orientation. Didn't have a place to live or anything along that lines. And I just drove right up, attended orientation, set up some apartment interviews, I think, after orientation intermittently through that week. But it can be done. It may be daunting. I've never even set foot in the state of Rhode Island before I drove up for orientation, but that's also something that was unique to my experience. I just packed it up, drove up from New Jersey, and went and lived in Rhode Island for 3 years for law school. And it was a great community. It's a great town. And so don't be too afraid of doing that because I definitely did it and I have no regrets.
That's a cool story, Ivan.
Yeah, I don't usually talk about myself, but I will echo that as someone who literally came here from Michigan, never stepped foot in Rhode Island, but I planned an actual living space and came like a day or two before orientation. But yeah, no, it can definitely be done.
If I could just add briefly, I actually was admitted to Roger Williams by way of the wait list. So I found out that I got into law school 2 weeks before it started. So I took the call from admissions that because I had interviewed, I asked to be interviewed so I could really make my case about why you should let me into law school. And I knew I wasn't the typical, at the time, kind of poli-sci major coming in at the top of the class, but I wanted to do it. And I got the call when I was at my job and I took it in the parking lot. And it's like, you got into law school. So sort of like Ivan, I very quickly was like, oh my God. So I ran back in the building, was able to give exactly 2 weeks notice. And honestly, my life was never the same. So I definitely didn't have the traditional experience of I'm going to go see the school and know I'm going there and prepare and have everything lined up in my life to do it. I was very, I was scraping by. So it can be done. And yes, the financial services office or financial aid office, I didn't have scholarships. I was taking out full loans. And as a public interest, I don't know if anybody else on this panel is doing it too. Sarah, Chris, my friends that are not private practice. I'm on the public service loan forgiveness, and I am less than 2 years away from being able to apply to have that forgiveness. So it can be done, yes. And I have an employer that fortunately has a provision for giving some, they pay up to so much towards our student loan payment. So there are perks, and it's definitely nothing to be scared of.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to make your dreams come true. Honestly, like no matter what you want to do after graduation. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that I don't think many people think about going into law school at first. So,
Yeah, I probably wasn't thinking about it at the time either. I was just like, let me borrow all the money. It won't matter. I didn't look at the interest rate. Friends panicked. I was like, who cares? And then now I'm like, oh, should have thought about that. But being able to do it lets you really focus on your studies, not feel the pressure of working if you're somebody who is paying their way on their own without support. But being able to have that financial aid to just know that all I have to do is study. My rent is covered. My books are covered. My food. It's definitely something that you can pause your life to do and get aid to do it if you have to.
yeah. Anyone else?
I'm 7 years away from that, so I'm nowhere near as close. I can't even see the finish line. It's far off in the distance, but public service forgiveness is an amazing tool if you end up going public service. So that's also at your litany if you rack up quite a bit of debt.
Yeah, nonprofit or government employee. It could even be being a teacher. Even if you don't end up practicing law, you can still have that in different ways.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's good. And very future to the perspective.
Yeah. Not so relevant right now, but
But yeah. Sarah, Eden, or Zach, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I think just real quick, I do want to mention, I know I've referenced and obviously we have a number of public service attorneys on this recording, but I also, in referencing my network of the Roger Williams network, there are many alums working in not only private practice at larger firms, medium firms on their own, but within in-house counsel, right? I can think of just of students that I went to school with, 4 that are currently in-house counsel at different companies. So there are a lot of other opportunities outside of, a lot of the public service programming that we've talked about in this call. I think there's a corporate counsel externship where students can go and work in-house while in law school. There's a number of larger firms that are frequently take Roger Williams students and alums. So those opportunities are abundant as well at the law school for the students that are interested in that type of work.
Yes, yeah, very, very true. We also have a business startup clinic, so similar to our immigration or criminal defense, where you work with the actual clients, helping them start their own businesses or with intellectual property questions. And we actually, if you look at the numbers, most of our graduates actually end up in the private practice in firms. So every year, yeah.
I'll just add quickly, just to close, something that in terms of advice that I give to people who are considering, what law school to go to or whether to go at all, is the goal is to have a job that you enjoy, ideally, after, and be supported along the way. So you're not just getting, bread and butter courses kind of along the way. You're getting supported at Roger Williams, which I don't think is the case at many law schools, given what I've heard from other lawyers that I've met, where you're really from resume development to networking to sort of the sort of softer things that you experience along the way in terms of support really gave me an edge. And a point that Brooklyn brought up about her employer being able to contribute to her student loan payment, I just wanted to bring up because it's not really well known on the Hill and Congress. There's also sort of a pot of money for student loan repayment that each office has to give out. And that's not always advertised, oddly, in any of the job postings. But if you ever interview with the United States Congress and any of the offices, make sure you ask about that. And I also didn't really know, all eggs in one basket, didn't really know what I was getting into when I went to law school. Didn't have attorneys in my family, didn't really have friends who were attorneys. I actually showed up after orientation because there were some waves that I was catching in a much warmer location and didn't want to miss that. So I probably came even less prepared than most. And it all worked out. So just to say, take the leap.
Sure did. Yeah, you sound like you're doing okay.
I think I knew that story and I forgot about it until right now. So thank you for this.
I love that. I think sometimes we have such a reputation for being it's so orderly and stiff and nobody diverts. And it's actually, there's such a cool other personality to so many people that go to law school that are not the stereotype you think of. And that's, yeah.
There is a long line of surfing law students, particularly off of Newport. I believe that gets the best waves, I've been told. So I don't do that, but we've many students over the years are surfers. So
Rhode Island's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It is.
And you're right next to the bridge to go into Newport. I mean, it can feel like a summer vacation to be in Rhode Island if you're not from here. And I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. So I can say that without just being biased.
Yes. Eden, any last words? Maybe.
Yeah. So I can also kind of attest to the whole not being fully prepared. I actually started law school amidst this super fun thing called COVID that I'm sure we all remember. I moved across the country from Florida all the way to Rhode Island without ever being in the state. And I had to get an apartment that I was hoping was not a scam and showed up about 3 days before classes started. So just like everyone else said, it can definitely happen. You can make it work. Roger Williams is very flexible with certain things, and they definitely teach you to be adaptable, and you will learn how to persevere in certain circumstances, including COVID. We've all survived it. My one piece of advice that I would give to admitted students would probably be to keep an open mind when you're coming to law school, because I did not think I was going to be doing what I do now when I entered law school. I actually planned on doing more policy work for coastal and environmental work. And now I'm doing a lot of different tax work for affordable housing, totally different from what I initially thought I was going to be doing. But Roger Williams has a lot of different opportunities that you're able to take really good advantage of if you're willing to put in the work to do it. And I think that's something that a lot of other schools don't necessarily offer because of the size of the schools. Roger Williams is a lot smaller, so you can definitely take advantage of all the different opportunities that they have in a much easier way than if you go to a bigger school.
Yeah, and I think one last thing I would say is everyone comes into law school, you think it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be a lot of work, and it will consume a majority of your life, but don't let it. There's a lot of opportunities. Rhode Island is a beautiful state. You're not too far from Newport. You're not too far from Providence. The T train, you can go up to Boston for less than $10. I would say explore as much as possible. I was able to enjoy Rhode Island as well as work very hard in law school and still be able to graduate with honors. So you don't have to just be married to the books and think there's only one way to achieve excellence academically. You can enjoy yourself. You can forge relationships with friends over a lifetime and still be able to achieve your academic goals. So I think that's also very important.
Yeah, I think that's kind of almost the perfect summation.
It is. I agree. A lot of my alumni, this might be the case for you guys too, but some of them are, my colleague who went to Roger Williams, she, I believe was 2012 or 11, but she met her husband at Roger Williams. He's from the other side of the country. She's from Maine. They're married. They have 2 children. And there are a bunch of attorneys that are still in Rhode Island that are from my class that met and fell in love in law school, and just my favorite friendships. But like you said, Chris, or somebody said, they do tend to move as well. So it's cool. I have friends everywhere, like from New York to Colorado, but most of my favorite people have gone off, kind of like you guys, Sarah in California and Ivan in DC. So,
Well, thank you all so much. I think this was fantastic. I hope a lot of our minute students got a lot out of it, and learning what makes us us. So, thank you all so much. And yeah, I will kind of turn over to Juliana.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really value all of the insights that you brought. Thank you, Chris, for hosting this panel, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day.